second relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who Niagara Falls' Krepps is going to be taking on later on this week. She's going to be locking horns with Puerto Rico's own unbeaten up-and-comer, Matos-Vargas. Both fighters are on an even keel in more ways than one. Both Krepps and Marie sport professional records of 3 wins with no losses and no draws.
Both fighters saw action earlier this year. Marie saw action back in January, and Makia saw action back in May.
Krepps, who's 26 years old, a very spry 26 years old, to Marie, who's a very spry 27.
Because both fighters have seen action within the last 12 months, neither fighter has any ring rust, the cobwebs they need to shake off. They're obviously in the same stage of their professional careers, the beginning stages.
That's right, but somebody's O has got to go, and having seen both in action, it really is difficult to separate them, to separate Marie from Krepps, as they both have things they bring to the table, strengths.
Both fighters are put together fighters, both are coordinated, both look to be educated punchers that
they both seem to have a mean streak.
Kind of fighters that have bad intentions, kind of fighters that go in there looking for a knockout, looking to hurt the other girl, both of them.
Being completely honest with you, it's a good fight. It's a really good fight, perhaps too good. Because they're both unbeaten up-and-comers, because they both exhibit a ceiling, somewhat high ceiling, it almost doesn't make sense for them to gamble risking their unbeaten records against each other. To the eye, I have to say that Marie, she looks to be the more heavy-handed puncher.
They've both got power, but I'd give the edge in power. The edge in power, I'd give that to Marie.
I'd give the edge in speed and swiftness, agility and athleticism to Krepps. She does look a little bit faster to the eye, a little sharper.
Her punches are more compact, whereas Marie,
her punches are a little bit wider than Makia's. They're both mid-range to inside fighters, but to the eye,
Makia's punches are a little bit more compact, whereas Marie's punches are a little bit wider.
They're both very aggressive, spiteful punchers.
It's hard to separate them, I'll be honest with you. It's anybody's fight on the night.
It will be Krepps that has home field advantage here, as the fight's set to go down at the Seneca Hotel and Casino in Niagara Falls. That's Krepps' neck of the woods. That's where she's from.
You think that might affect how the fight is scored?
Well, it might. Home field advantage is a real thing, assuming the fight actually goes the distance, assuming it doesn't end in a knockout.
Perhaps home field advantage might play a factor. Perhaps that
might have its role to play. It usually does in most any organized sport, even the sport of boxing. The truth of it is that neither Marie or Krepps have proven so much so far in just 3 professional contests. Neither one has proven so much so far based on who they've fought that either one stands out to me. They're both capable fighters, dangerous fighters that to the eye, at least from where I'm sitting, can beat the other girl. I can see Krepps being a little bit too fast for Marie.
But I can also see Marie being a little bit too strong for Krepps. She does look to be a stronger puncher than anybody Makia's fought so far.
Either fighter to the other fighter presents a quality scalp for them to collect. I'd be thoroughly impressed if either fighter beats either fighter in decisive fashion, because it's so hard to separate them. This looks to me like a pick'em fight.
It's anybody's fight on the night, because both fighters are coordinated, capable, mean-spirited.
They're both unbeaten up-and-comers. They both have something to prove. They're both trying to establish their names in today's bantamweight division, as this is being billed as a bantamweight contest. Bantamweight, that's 118 pounds. That's where Ebony Bridges holds the IBF, Jamie Mitchell holds the WBA, Yuli Hangluna's got the WBC, and Dina Thorsland's got the WBO.
The winner of the fight brings themselves that much closer to eventually challenging for an alphabet title, and I'm being honest.
It's not quite clear to me right now who's going to win this thing later on this week.
Because neither fighter has proven so much so far that you can pick them to be head and shoulders
above the other fighter. They're in the exact same place in their careers, identical professional records.
They're only a year apart in terms of age.
Both fighters have seen action in the last 12 months. It's hard to separate them.
And the bantamweight division is that much deeper for having the both of them campaigning there.
And this is being billed as a 6-rounder. Neither fighter has all the time in the world to ease off and figure out their opponent, see what works and what doesn't. They've got to come out guns blazing and try their best to make it decisive. So it's a very interesting situation.
Not completely sure what's going to happen here, but this Friday, this upcoming Friday,
on the 14th at the Seneca Hotel and Casino.
It's indefinite that somebody's O has got to go, and it's just a question of whose. Will it be Makia's or will it be Carmarie's? We'll find out on Friday.
In men's heavyweight news, Tyson Fury very recently did the rounds. Interviews with Seconds Out, ID Boxing, IFL, and all that jazz. On retirement, he stated, "I think I'm going to need mental help to let go of boxing. I'm boxing because I feel I need to box to keep me sane. I want to be out of boxing. I can't let it go. It scares me to think, how long will I have to keep going?
How long will I have to keep doing this?"
On potentially fighting Derek Chisora for the third time, he said, "In my opinion, Chisora at least got a draw with Alexander Usyk. So I see Chisora every bit as dangerous as Usyk, if it is Chisora."
Oh, now he's as dangerous as Usyk. Now you think he at least got a draw against him. That's what Tyson Fury's saying now.
But that's not what Tyson Fury was saying before. That's not what he was saying in December of last year. You want to know what he said about it? December of last year, he said Usyk is a southpaw, clever, technical, very good. He's smaller, but he handled Derek Chisora, who is physically tougher than Anthony Joshua. So while I'm absolutely confident of beating Wilder, I'm not so sure about AJ.
Wait a minute. So he went from saying that Usyk absolutely handled Derek Chisora to Derek Chisora at minimum got a draw.
Close to a year's time between both of these comments. It's possible that Tyson Fury may have seen the fight again, changed his mind, but that's the problem with
most anything and everything that Tyson Fury says. He himself goes against it, and it doesn't take him very long to do it either.
And he does it often. What good is the word of a man who constantly goes back on his own word on a regular basis in full view of the public eye? I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. Is this a byproduct of his mental illness?
Very well could be.
He blew off the idea that he should fight Joyce in the near future, saying, can he beat the Gypsy King? Probably not. But I'd like to see it one day. I said to Joe, you've got like 150,000 followers. You need to build your profile. My wife has 1 million, so she's more popular than the top 10 heavyweights. And how many followers did Tom Schwartz have when you fought him?
Huh?
How many followers did Otto Wallin have?
Huh?
Zephyr Safari, Francesco Pianetta, you know.
How many followers did they have? The requisites that you're imposing on Joyce, why didn't you impose those requisites on them? Because
Tyson Fury versus Joyce on BT Sport, that's more of a box office fight, a more titillating, sizzling fight than fighting either Manuel Char or Derek Chisora.
nobody wants to see that again.
Why is he revisiting that fight? He talked about Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and Anthony Joshua, saying their stable's down the toilet. They've all been beaten. Katie Taylor's holding the stable up. That's all I've got to say. No interest in those guys.
Acting as Frank Warren's mouthpiece, talking about Matchroom's stable.
Matchroom has a stronger stable than Queensberry and BT by far and wide. It's not even close. I mean, if we're going to call a spade, if we're just going to be honest here, all BT Sport really has is Tyson Fury.
All BT Sport and Queensberry really have in terms of a guy who can draw a bit, it's Tyson Fury and who else?
Who else have they got that can actually draw? Tommy Fury? Isaac Lowe?
Who else have they got that exhibits any kind of drawing power? Who else have they got? That's a serious question.
I mean, he's not wrong that both Anthony Joshua and Dillian White are coming off of losses. They both are, but they can both draw. They can both draw a lot better than your average fighter on Queensberry, if we're being honest here.
They can draw. And aside from Tyson Fury, who does Queensberry Promotions have?
Who do they have that can draw like Anthony Joshua can draw? Who do they have that can draw like Dillian White can draw? I mean, aside from Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury seems to be all they really have.
Get a whiff for this guy.
And Tyson Fury shouldn't pat himself on the back for what's supposed to be his own drawing power when he finds himself having to revisit a Derek Chisora fight. Derek Chisora, who he's already beat 2 times, he finds himself having to revisit that fight because he can't sell just any fight off his own name alone, off his own drawing power. He ain't got that kind of drawing power.
He said the Anthony Joshua fight is not happening.
He said they will always find a reason not to fight the Gypsy King. I can't blame them. I'll tell you what they can't do. These control freaks. They can't go on somebody else's show because their egos are too big. Or maybe it's because
It's not their egos, it's that they have enough marquee value on their own that they don't have to bow to you.
if we're going to be honest here, Anthony Joshua's not your run-of-the-mill challenger, and that wasn't going to be your run-of-the-mill voluntary title defense. You know what kind of value was tacked onto that fight, and you know.
The only reason you're revisiting a Chisora fight is
Because you're hoping that since he's a familiar face in the UK, that will help sell the fight. You by yourself, You can't sell it by yourself.
You can't go in there with a manual char and drum up business, and you know that. That's why you called up your old buddy Derek.
Which is pretty pathetic because you fought him 2 times already. He said, nah, I've tried to make this fight for about 4 years, and there's always been something stopping it. If they're not gonna fight, they're not gonna fight. I'm not gonna waste any more time. And the last time I checked, you're the one that called these negotiations off. You were the one imposing unnecessary deadlines and time constraints, and here you are without a fight, without an official fight book.
It's not like Tyson Fury called the negotiations off and announced his official opponent.
He's negotiating with someone else as we speak, so for doing that, why didn't you afford Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua more time?
The fight with them is a much bigger fight than the fight you're about to have with whoever it is you're about to fight.
You called off negotiations with them to start over with somebody else, except the somebody else you're dealing with can't possibly match the marquee value that Anthony brought to the table. But hey, it's your prerogative. A deadline on Monday, then another one on Wednesday.
You called off negotiations with them so that you could fight Derek Chisora for a 3rd time.
Well, if I didn't know better, this fucking guy's the brains of Britain, this fucking guy.
He starts carrying on about Deontay Wilder again, saying,
Deontay took me to fucking court to get the fight. Then this other big sausage, Anthony Joshua, he's had a contract and didn't sign it. One man risked losing millions to make the fight, and one man's running from millions. And that man is you, Tyson Fury. Because whoever you're about to fight, you won't make with them what you could have made with Anthony Joshua had you just given them a little more time. You're the one that didn't want to do that. The deadlines, the Monday deadline, the Wednesday deadline, was that Anthony Joshua that did that, or was that Tyson Fury?
And get a whiff of this. This guy's actually talking about a 4th fight with Deontay Wilder.
Saying, don't write off a 4th fight with me and Deontay Wilder. I don't mind. It's a great fight. If he becomes mandatory again, and I don't get this other fight with Alexander Usyk, then we'll do Wilder again. Who wouldn't want to watch that again? I wouldn't want to watch that again. You do realize that their 3rd fight, the 3rd installment of Wilder versus Fury, that brought in less pay-per-view buys than the 2nd installment brought in. The 2nd installment garnered the most buys of the trilogy, but the 3rd fight...
The 3rd fight sold less than the 2nd, and at least the 3rd fight had an angle. The scandal.
Wilder's accusations that Tyson Fury may have had a concealed object somewhere in his gloves. That helped to sell that fight. Add some intrigue to it. You know, maybe Wilder's onto something. Maybe it'll be different this time. I didn't think it would be different. I figured he's just gonna get his ass kicked again, and this time, Mark Breland won't be there to save him. Better still, who the hell's in the market for a 4th installment? Who wants to see that again?
Tyson Fury's the kind of guy, he's talking just because he's got a mouth. Nothing important's coming out.
At this point, I don't even know why they're interviewing this guy. Whatever he's saying here today, this time next week will have changed.
When it does, you can chalk it up to Tyson Fury's mental health bullshit.
Because God forbid he be held accountable for the words that leave his mouth, right?
Right.
And just in keeping with the theme of all things heavyweight, Deontay Wilder said, I felt a little sluggish. He's talking about the 3rd Tyson Fury fight. A little heavy in the 3rd Fury fight. Will be in the 220s for Hellenius, a more natural weight for Deontay Wilder. Weight is not going to be what we worry about in this fight or fights in the future, Wilder said during a virtual press conference Tuesday. You know, we gained a lot of weight for the last fight, just because of others' expectations of seeing my body in a certain way. And you know, I was interested in seeing my body frame in a certain weight as well. But at this moment in time, I go back to what I'm used to and what's comfortable to me and what's comfortable with my body frame. And that's going to be around maybe in the 220s or maybe under. Wilder wanted more weight on his frame to better deal with the sheer size and strength of the 6'9" Tyson Fury, who outweighed him by 42 pounds the day before their rematch in February 2020. Fury wore Wilder out by grappling with him and leaning on him in their 2nd meeting. Added pounds didn't benefit Wilder as he had hoped in his 3rd fight with Fury, who weighed in at a career-high 277 pounds. Wilder floored Fury twice during the 4th round and appeared on the verge of regaining his WBC belt, but Fury dropped Wilder 3 times. Once apiece in the 3rd, 10th, and 11th round, and viciously knocked him out. I felt a little sluggish, a little heavy, Wilder said. I mean, you gotta understand, I never been 240 ever in my life before, but it was an experiment that I wanted to try, and we did what we had to do to get the weight put on there, and you know, that's an experience up in the history books for me. So, you know, the only way to become wise is apply knowledge to life. And we've gained a lot of knowledge from that, and now we know what to do leaning forward.
Deontay Wilder thought that he could pack on the pounds to be a little bit more solid in the third fight with Tyson Fury so he could better deal with Tyson Fury's weight. But Deontay Wilder's weight, what he weighed, was never the issue.
The issue was Deontay Wilder having poor balance, poor feet, and poor coordination. He couldn't manage the distance to maintain space between himself and Tyson Fury, who was so obviously pressuring him and crowding him, as to smother his work and disarm his cannon right hand.
And for the most part, it worked.
While sapping his energy reserves by tying him up and leaning on him and wrestling with him, Deontay Wilder's never had the best gas tank. I've been saying it for years. That's why he's not a more prolific puncher. If you force this guy to work, he's going to get that much more tired, that much faster.
He spends the entirety of a round looking to land a single punch, a single shot.
He ain't got good cardio. He doesn't have a good gas tank. Oh, to the eye, his physique. He may look athletic, but what's underneath the hood, the engine?
Don't you remember that Mark Breland said it himself in 2020? Deontay Wilder don't do road work and he doesn't skip rope.
So what you're essentially talking about is a heavyweight with a cannon right hand, a good right hand, yes, but a poorly coordinated heavyweight with bad feet, bad balance, and bad cardio.
Tyson Fury, applying pressure on Wilder and crowding him in the pocket, was able to disarm Deontay Wilder's right hand, and that's because Deontay Wilder ain't got no feet to manage that distance, and he ain't got much of a jab either.
Because if he did, he would have been able to better manage the distance against Tyson Fury, who was so obviously coming forward.
The saving grace for Wilder moving forward is that in all likelihood, the matchmaking will cater to the strengths he already has, the things he's already good at.
He can knock out Robert Helenius. I'm confident of that. And even Andy Ruiz. Andy's got even slower, flatter feet than Deontay.
I don't expect to see a completely different fighter next weekend. I don't.
Because Deontay Wilder's 36, going on 37 years old.
You know, the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Deontay's no spring chicken.